Hello, hello.
We can hear you fine, Mayor Holder. We're just about to start the
Okay,
meeting.
I don't see a visual here for me, but I am here in spirit. I'll be trying to dial in on the on my iPad, but these weren't locked in, so there we go. I'm going to start the video so you can see my smile. Can you see my smiling face?
We can see you, yeah.
And we're
With
streaming.
apologies.
And we're
With
streaming.
apologies.
And we're streaming.
Yes, thank you. Apologies for the visual, clerk.
Okay, I'm going to call the meeting to order. We have a quorum, although one member of the committee is still yet to join the meeting. We'll watch for that councillor. I want to say the City of London is committed to making every effort to provide alternate formats and communication supports for council, standing or advisory committee meetings and information upon request. To make a request for any city service, please contact accessibility@london.ca or 519-661-2489, extension 2425. To make a request specific to this meeting, please contact cpsc@london.ca. City Hall is temporarily closed to the public for in-person attendance at standing committees and council meetings. We are streaming, of course, on YouTube and the city website. I will look to committee members to see if there are any disclosures of interest. Just raise your hand on the Zoom if you want to get my attention. Okay, I don't see any disclosures of interest. Let's go to item 2.1. This is the Homeless Prevention Head Lease Program. And colleagues, what I'd like to do is have Mr. Dickens or perhaps Mr. Cooper just provide a bit of an overview of this item, and then we'll get into any discussion, debate on the recommendation. Go ahead.
Thank you, and through the chair. Actually, we're joined on CAPS tonight by Ms. Cornish, who has done a considerable amount of work to bring this opportunity to the point where it is tonight before you in this report. So I would be honored to hand it over to Ms. Cornish to speak to the report and to the Head Lease program that she has worked so hard on.
Go ahead, Ms. Cornish.
Thank you, Kevin, and through the chair. Tonight, we're bringing to you a report to request approval to add 20 new units to our head lease program. Council at the November 10th meeting approved 2 units to come into our head lease program, and since that time we've had landlords reached out, including this opportunity to add a block of 20 units to our units for the program in the core, and so that is what this report is asking for.
Thank you very much, Ms. Cornish. I'll just look to committee members to see if someone's willing to move the recommendation. Councillor Lewis, is there a seconder? Councillor Hillier? Okay, any discussion on the recommendation? Mayor Holder, go ahead.
Thanks very much. I'm trying to get rid of an echo here. I think the only way I can do that is to throw this other, my cell phone away. So I apologize if there's an echo, if you can hear it. My question is this, please, regarding the head lease program. That's great news about the additional units that have come available. What is the top end? That is to say, we knew there was modest uptake, in fact, none at the beginning, then something better with some units having come on board. And now we've got these. What's the top end of what we're looking for, if that's the right question, that we're able to accommodate?
We'll get you an answer to that question, Mayor Holder. You'll need to mute the other device or turn it off. We were getting a lot of feedback there. Go ahead if someone would like to answer the mayor's question.
Thank you, and through the chair, I will pass it over to Mr. Cooper to answer what the top end number would be. As you will see, we're proposing that the top end of the pilot currently be at 5, but I'll pass it over to Mr. Cooper to speak to anything beyond that.
Thank you, Mr. Dickens. And through the chair, at this moment in time, 25 is our top end. We've been able to identify a funding source for those 25. And obviously, this additional 20 units would help. The conversations we continue to have in community are around the right match and the right fit. This block of 20 is actually part of a larger block of 60 that we as a system, working with our partners and our other community agencies, were able to secure for individuals who are experiencing homelessness. So, this is the city showing the leadership that's been requested through a Housing Stability Action Plan. We'll continue to have those conversations, and if growth is appropriate at the right time, and the units that come available are fitting the need that we're identifying, we'll for sure come forward with a potential expansion once we've identified a financing source.
Thank you, Mr. Cooper. Again, if I might, through you, Chair, one more question.
Go ahead.
I just want to confirm, does that mean we're now at 22 and we've got an availability of about 3 more at this stage? And how long in terms of lease arrangements or rental arrangements will these go for? If I can just clarify, Mr. Cooper, I appreciate your prior answer.
Yes, thank you. And through the chair, I'm happy to respond to that question. Right now, the program is for, I want to say, up to 3 years. Ms. Cornish can confirm me on those specific details, but we were looking at this as a pilot to evaluate the uptake in community, as well as the outcomes for those that we're prioritizing and identifying that need this kind of support. So it's actually 1 year right now at this moment in time, but there are options for us to expand the program should we need to.
And I'm sorry if I can, Chair, just to clarify the first part of my question, please, which is, Mr. Cooper, where are we in terms of up to the 25? This is 20. I think we had a couple before. I just want to clarify what extra room, what additional that has been pre-funded that we could look to in terms of maxing this program out on this trial basis, pilot basis, please.
Through the chair, I can happily answer that, and my apologies for not answering that the first time. Yes, so we have 22 committed at this. We would have 22 committed at this point, with the opportunity to flex 3 additional within the existing funding envelope. We've seen a number of uptakes through multi-unit and multi-family housing, as well as what we're seeing now with the 1 in bachelor apartment units. So we feel that the flexibility of the 3 additional would meet sort of where we have the limits of our funding. And then if another opportunity were to come forward, we would then assess, reevaluate, and bring something forward at that point. As mentioned, it's a pilot. We're looking to make sure we're walking before we run on this, and making sure that the outcomes are meeting what the intention of the program are. So thank you.
Well, thank you. Good work.
Councillor Lewis.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and through you, I just want to follow up, and Mr. Cooper touched on this already, so I'm hoping he can just expand on it a little bit further. We hear that there's need across the city for various accommodations. How is the size available? Because these are bachelor. How is this matching up to the need compared to 2-bedroom or 3-bedroom need out there? Are we seeing a response that's scaling to our need, I guess? Do we have a big backlog of need for 2-bedroom or 3-bedroom, or are the bachelors taking care of the biggest area of need that we've identified to date?
Thank you. I can answer that through the chair. We are seeing the biggest need in singles and bachelors at this point. We've had a number of landlords come forward with offering 2- and 3-bedroom units, but that is not where we're seeing the specific need at this point for this type of program. It is the bachelors and the 1-bedrooms at this point where there is the largest need. When we look at our Housing Stability Action Plan, we note a 3,000 unit shortage in affordable housing. This is, again, what we say, that small drop in the bucket, but it is addressing some of the need for some of the higher acuity and harder to house folks that we are seeing engage with our system.
Any further discussion, colleagues? Just raise your hand on the Zoom if you're looking to weigh in. Councillor Van Holst, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My question to you, or through staff, to staff through you, the people we're helping out here, are these often people we're diverting from shelters? And that would be my first question. My second one is just to remind us what is the cost to the city for housing someone in an emergency shelter for a month.
Mr. Cooper?
Thank you. Yes, thank you. And through the chair, I can answer that question. We are we're working with the individuals that come through our coordinated access and individuals who are traditionally longer stayers and sheltered. Ideally, the head lease program is supporting individuals with higher acuity needs, moderate, higher acuity needs that have a hard time obtaining housing independently, both from financial means, credit means, and some of the ability to sign a lease. So we would look to support the individuals to achieve that over the term of their stay in the head lease program, so that when they exit the head lease program, they would be able to sign a lease, maintain their own payment, maintain their housing, and achieve that housing stability. I would say on average cost of a shelter bed in the City of London does vary depending on, but we are in the $1,400 to $1,500 per month per shelter bed under our current financing structure with our shelter system.
Councillor Van Holst?
Yes, thank you. So I think this is wonderful. That's actually quite inspiring news that these people will be brought through this program to a point where they can take on a lease themselves. And the fact that the apartments housing them in this way is, in some instances, maybe half of what it would cost us. So I think this is really encouraging, and I thank our staff for the work.
Any further discussion, colleagues? If not, we're going to open the recommendation up for voting.
Chair, I'll vote yes, please.
Closing the vote, the motion carries 6-0.
Okay, that brings us to item 4.1, which is a communication from Councillor Van Holst about the lands that were purchased by the Housing Development Corporation for affordable housing. He's got a letter there. I'm going to turn it over to him to speak to it. Go ahead, Councillor Van Holst.
Mr. Chair, thank you very much. And committee, thanks for allowing me to speak to you about this. We have a development coming up. There hasn't been public engagement on it yet. However, I've received a lot of feedback from the residents. About 80 or 90 people signed a petition and about asking us not to build housing at this location, which surprised me. But listening to their concerns, I tried to put those together in communication for you. And my hope here would be to perhaps do something ahead of time to make the development more acceptable, or at least deal with the concerns that they have. So our goal is, of course, to put up affordable housing, and in this area, this is a very affordable section of the city, and having more affordable housing is not something that the residents would be looking for because of the demographics they feel might be attracted to an already challenged area. And so what they would like instead is just to leave that as a park or put park facilities in there. So I've put in a suggestion here that perhaps we can ask staff what that might look like. And I also talked to the residents and said that, of course, housing is a priority for our council and throughout the city, and that maybe there would be the possibility of some specialized use for this, or we can identify the demographics that they think would provide some nice synergies for the neighborhood. One of those would be a retirement home for those who might like to age in place in this neighborhood, and that would free up some single family homes that could be purchased. A lot of young families are purchasing homes in this area because they're affordable starting homes. Some interesting models might be a possible too for us. The two that I'm thinking about, one there was the idea of a Baba Yaga home. And this was a place, it was an idea created by a feminist in France who realized that many older widows were living alone. And to build some community, they would have a place where each person would have their own apartment, but there would be a much communal space and a communal kitchen where they could meet and cook and dine together if they so chose. That was an interesting model that the city might be able to do, and whereas a private developer might not be. So I think we've got an opportunity in this area. Perhaps we could look at something like that. The one other, and of course this doesn't have to be for women only, but that was the idea. The other one that's interesting, someone brought forward, was a situation where there's a kitchen and a dining room, and it supplies one hot meal a day at lunchtime. And then the residents can fend for themselves during for breakfast, to have some cereal and some snacks in the evening, and it's not available on weekends because they're often meeting with family. So it provided a different opportunity. So my suggestion here is perhaps we can have staff come back with some ideas that would build some enthusiasm for this development for the neighbors. So having presented their thoughts and some ideas, I'd turn this over to the committee for some discussion. I sincerely hope you have some input.
So what I'm going to suggest we do, colleagues, is just hear from city staff about what the current status is of the lands. As you know, they're owned by the Housing Development Corporation. Once we've got that input, then we can decide what it is we want to do in terms of motions. We could receive the communication. We could take some kind of action along the lines that Councillor Van Holst is suggesting in the form of a motion. But I'd like to go to staff first, and then I'll see what committee members would like to do. Go ahead.
Thank you, and through the chair, I'm happy to share that you're right. These lands are owned by the HDC. They were purchased, in fact, and brought forward to council when they were acquired by HDC back in July of 2019. The subject lands were purchased from the school board, and that was under our legislative rights, specific to our role as service manager, in which we acquired the lands in a priority fashion. HDC has been active in communicating with the neighborhood, and the demolition notice. 1/3 of the subject land will remain as a neighborhood parkette, so there will be available green space on this property. As council is well aware, we have a significant shortage of affordable housing in our community. We have set out a target or identified a gap of 3,000 affordable units in the City of London, which we are actively trying to address. It is important to note too that affordability comes with a range, and that any affordable housing project will come with a range of incomes. It will be mixed residential. This project would not be entirely different from that. HDC has been actively working with a number of key stakeholders and priority groups to finalize a partnership on the development of affordable housing on this parcel of land, and that work will continue. But this is a project that aligns with council's priorities. It aligns with policies around surplus lands and the purchase of school properties, surplus school properties. And it is a project that is advancing quite quickly and has been since July of 2019. So the work is well underway. It would be a significant disruption to pivot at this point, but certainly we know that any future rezoning, which as part of this land deal will require future rezoning, that concerns of the neighbors may be aired, or it may be more appropriate for those concerns to come forward through the Planning and Environment Committee at that time. So I am happy to share that the work is well underway. The demolition notice has been shared with the neighborhood. Communication has been shared with the neighborhood. And we are advancing this project to address our significant affordable housing shortage.
Okay, thank you for that. I'm going to go to Councillor Lewis, who got my attention first. I don't see any other speakers yet, but do put your hand up. Okay, Councillor Hillier, you're next. Go ahead, Councillor Lewis.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I will move that we receive this communication. Colleagues, I have a similar surplus school land that's been acquired in my ward, the St. Robert's School, the former lands there. I think it's honestly really getting the cart ahead of the horse to be bringing a letter like this to committee before public engagement has happened with that process. And, you know, while I'm glad to hear that some green space will be retained for a parkette, when I start hearing, you know, retain it for a park, turn it into a community hub, you're talking about 2 blocks away from the Silverwoods Park and Arena and Pool Complex. As far as I'm aware, and certainly I will yield to if Mr. Stafford wants to comment, I'm not aware that any shortage of surplus or any shortage of park area in the immediate vicinity has been identified as part of the Parks and Recreation Master Plan. We have a need, and I understand why neighbors would be concerned about what may happen there, but there's a process to follow, and I think that we're really getting the cart ahead of the horse with a communication like this, asking if we were to direct any sort of motion with this. The lands were acquired for housing. As we've heard from Mr. Dickens, affordable housing does not mean it's going to be entirely rent geared to income, or that there might not be some housing there that's quite attractive to single seniors or some of the other scenarios that the councillor has suggested. But I think that we need to have the process play out in the proper order, and that's why I'm moving to just receive this communication at this time.
Okay, I'm just going to look to see if there's a seconder for that, then I'm going to go to Councillor Hillier.
Thank you.
Sorry,
Councillor
Councillor Hillier, I'm just looking for a seconder first, and then I'm going to come to you. Yeah, is it Councillor Kaibaga? Are you seconding? You're just muted.
I am seconding the motion, yes.
Okay, Councillor Hillier, go ahead.
Thank you. Yes, Councillor Lewis took a little bit what I was going to, actually most of what I was going to, but that's okay. But from what I'm listening to, from what he's communicating from the neighborhood, no to affordable housing, but yes to everything from condos to a soup kitchen. I'm sensing a little bit of a confused message there. And with all respect to the councillor, I think we need to get from the neighborhood what they really would like to have in that area. I just think the message going to staff needs to be clear. And right now we're pretty much all over the map. Thanks.
Any other speakers? Councillor Kaibaga, do you want to weigh in?
I just wanted to make sure that I'm seconding the motion to receive the communication and not take any other action.
You are, yeah.
Thank you.
Any further discussion from committee members? Councillor Van Holst, anything you would like to add? You're muted, sorry.
Yes, thank you. And I appreciate the discussion from the committee, and it was, you know, your actions were anticipated. I just wanted to make sure that the concerns of the community were brought forward at a time when some action might be possible. It was suggested by staff that it'd be difficult to pivot at this time. Later on downstream, it'd be difficult to do anything. But I think just bring this forward and providing a heads up that there may be some large scale resistance to a development, which I also see a need for because of our housing shortage. We can be prepared for that. One thing I would say about this area, if we want to think in terms of inclusionary zoning, where we try to get affordable housing in all areas of the city, this is one part of the city where it's almost the reverse. And we would be looking for housing of a higher value to equalize things there. So that is the concern of the community. And they hope that I would bring this forward. Their suggestion was simply do not build housing here. And I tried to see if there was opening for some other possibilities. So that's why there's a bit of divergence and a number of ideas here. And there's always a number of ideas in a community. So thank you very much for the consideration. And I leave it to the committee to make their decision.
Okay, we've reached the end of the speakers list, so we're going to open that motion to receive up for voting.
Chair, it's the mayor. I'll vote yes on this, please.
Okay.
Closing the vote, the motion carries 6-0.
Okay, thank you, colleagues. That moves us to the request for delegation status. My understanding is that the requesting organization, Youth Opportunities Unlimited, is not looking to speak at this meeting, but at a future meeting. Just to clarify that, I wonder if there's someone who wants to move the delegation request. Councillor Lewis, seconded by the mayor. Okay, any discussion on that? If not, we're going to open it up for a vote.
Chair, it's the mayor. I'll vote yes.
Closing the vote, the motion carries 6-0.
Brings us to item 5.1, which is deferred matters list. You'll see that the changes that we directed at our last meeting have been made. Is there a mover to receive that list? And then we'll have any discussion if there's any questions or something about it. Councillor Hillier moving, thank you. Seconded by Councillor Kayavaga. Any discussion? If not, we're going to open it up for a vote.
Chair, again, thank you for your patience on this. I'll vote yes.
Closing the vote, the motion carries 6-0.
Any additional business, colleagues? I'm not aware of any. Motion to adjourn. Moved by Councillor Lewis, seconded by Councillor Hillier. All those in favor, we'll just do a hand vote. Okay, we're adjourned. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Mr.